I thought I would do a video about my van. Some people have asked me about it, what I keep on here. Maybe tell you a little bit about actually me. I've been doing HVAC since 1994. I went on my first job, I guess. And I've been a contractor, licensed contractor in North Carolina since 1999. I started my business in 2009, Town and Country Air, and I've been here ever since. Some of the things you'll see in here, there's a lot of parts, but it'll be nothing for gas besides some testing stuff. And that is because I seldom see gas. I don't stock any of the parts for it because it's so random. There's probably 1 out of every 20 units I work on is gas. So I don't really stock many parts for it. It's mainly heat pumps or even electric heat with air conditioning. So I have those parts. I did not go to school for air conditioning. I just learned from my father. He owned his own business. He taught me, and I learned the service trade myself because I was just interested in learning about it, and I've always had an interest in that sort of thing, mechanical things, electronics. So it was just interesting to me to learn how to do it. I read books, I got out in the field, and it's sort of the best way to learn. You get thrown to the wolves and told to fix something, and you have no idea how to do it. So that's what I did. So I learned how to fix it. I read about it. And I even like YouTube here. I watch videos about it. I still to this day like watching videos. It's a great way to learn. There's always someone out there that knows more. At least knows more about something that you can learn from. So that's what I decided to do. I try to keep reading, keep studying, buy the tools I need, buy the tools I want. And that's why I'm making this video. So everybody has a little background. I don't really tell much about myself, but I figure I'd do one on it. And this is it. A couple of guys have asked me for a long time to make a video of the stuff inside my van. What I take to work on a daily basis. So I'm going to go ahead and make that video. I'm going to start with some of the materials that I carry and parts that I carry. And then I'll get into the tools that I use. Things like that. This is tucked away at the back of the van, and it's not really a part for sure, but it's my microvac recovery unit. It's old, and I don't know how long it's going to last, but it's still going, and that's good enough for me. I have two 50-pound recovery cylinders, one for R410A, one beneath it you can't really see for R22. That's my hard hat I've had for years, with some brazing rags inside of it. Down there you see my Pro Flush stuff for cleaning out lines contaminated with mineral oil for upcoming R410A installation. Up on the top shelf here, of course I have my drop cords and things like that. 18 3-wire, good for zone components like dampers, static pressure switch and things like that. Over here is 18-8, just for general use thermostat wire. Handles everything from heat pump, two-stage stuff, pretty much anything. There's 1810 as well, but I don't carry that on the van. Here, heat pump risers. In case I run across a heat pump that's been buried over time, or I just forget to order some, I always have some on the van. On the next shelf down, I hold different tapes. The UL 181B for attaching flex helixes and things like that. And then there's general use 3-inch silver tape and black tape for line sets. The next box has some strapping supplies. We have metal strap 1.5 inch. Then we have a couple rolls of fabric strap for flex runouts. You see behind there is some Panduit straps for flex runouts. Also in here, anchor kit used for mounting things to brick walls or drywall. And over here you'll see there's some Tapcons as well. Go down here, there's 14-4 mini split wire, just left over from jobs, which is quite a bit left over actually. 14 gauge wire for rewiring controls instead of air handlers or whatever. And then there's some 10 gauge for a little bit more heavy duty rewiring, like heat strips or things like that. And it has some random stuff in there. On the next row down is where I keep all my motors. Start on this end, we have a 115 volt blower multi-horse motor, a general use replacement. Above it is a bracket for a blower motor in case the one is damaged or for whatever reason. The next one down is a condenser fan motor, multi-horse, but it's 42 frame. There are certain Goodman and Train smaller condenser fan motors that this is a replacement for. Two more condenser fan motors look pretty much the same except for the one digit here. One of them's 1075 and one of them is 825. I think I have that right. And missing down on the end is the multi-horse blower motor for 240 volts. The original one down here was for 115. On the next row down I have screws, other fasteners, and some random tools. Anything from sheet metal screws for ductwork to screws for framing, like building stands. I'll have some 2 or 2.5 inch exterior decking screws, some thermostat staples. Back there you see those are metal shears right here for cutting my hood panels or fitting panels. A couple different sawzalls. The one in the back is a Ryobi battery powered sawzall. The one in the forefront is a Milwaukee, just a regular corded sawzall. It's kind of old too. I think it's about 10 or 15 years old, but it's just as good today as it was the first day. There's a Ryobi radio with one of the little lithium ion batteries right there. And these are the bits for my oscillating tool. I'm sure everybody's seen these by now. Those type of bits right there. And this one's just a Harbor Freight oscillating tool. It's real cheap, but I found that certain things from Harbor Freight can be very nice as long as they're not used too heavily. Speaking of which, there's my heat gun, used mostly when I'm charging. R410A. Got 2 cylinders of R410A and a cylinder of R22. I have a cylinder of R134A, but I don't carry it on the van unless I know I'm going to do an appliance that day. Down here is a tub of Dyno Seal. It's duct sealant. You can seal the interior of the ductwork or put on the insulation so that the tape will not come off. I have 2 rows of bins in my van. The top row, for the most part, is tools and just some random stuff. Liquid dryers is exactly what it says. There's a bunch of liquid dryers in there. Miscellaneous electrical. You have some wiring, some breakers, some fuses just piled in there, just off chance I'll need one of them. Hard starts. It's 2 521 hard starts. One of them for 3.5 to 5 tons. One of them for 1 ton to 3 tons. We'll get into these when we get to the tool part of it. Single run caps. You'll have everything from 3 microfarads up to 20 in here. Mainly this is for the different style blowers, run caps. The next container is relays and controls. What I'll have is a couple, these are defrost sensors that I actually can use for free stats. What I do is I use a defrost sensor, and since they close on fall instead of open, I just have to put a relay in to make them work as freeze stats. Sequencer here, 10 kW. You have several relays. You have the single pole normally open, single pole normally closed, single pole normally open. All these are 24 volt coils. Double pole, double throw. Another double pole, double throw. A few delay on brake timers. Actually, I think there's 3 of them. Another 10 kW sequencer. A 5 kW sequencer. A lot of relays. Try to have 1 or 2 of everything that I can need in a reasonable way. You know, I can't carry every single relay, but I carry every one that's relatively common. And the next container is contactors and transformer. I say transformer because there's only one in there. It's a 40 VA, and that's it right down there. We have 2 double pole contactors, 2 single pole contactors. Here's an example of contactor here, single pole. You have the one side, double pole. You'd have both sides broken by the magnetic relay. High voltage here, and you have your low voltage connections on either side, just like most any relay. The 2 last containers are both dual run caps. This is size is 25 microfarads. These are all /5 through 40 and 45 through 60. In the most common sizes, I keep 2 of them at all times, and maybe the largest size, like 55 or 60, I'll just carry 1 of them. And I'm not going to break those out because it's pretty standard issue stuff. This is my blower tray you saw in a previous video. A few nutsetters, socket set, ultimate puller, the wheel I use to take the stuff off the shaft. A few of the most common sockets I use taking the blowers apart. Lubricant, aero coil, some of the other sockets that I have in the set. A few random things in here too, like lags and stuff like that that I have nothing to do with blowers. Just no other place to put them right now. That's about all with that. The other case is just mainly just random screws and things like that. This is where I keep some of my copper supplies for working with copper. Vice grips, a few odds and ends, flare nut wrenches, big tub of leak lock. These are my benders. These are Imperial, just for small size, either 3/8, 5/16, 1/4 inch. There's a pinch off tool down here at the bottom. This is a flare block. There's a pinch off tool down here at the bottom for working on appliances. Don't really do that very often. I did one time, so I decided to buy me a tool. There's some heat sink, and my bubbles are usually in here, but I don't know where they went off to. I hope I didn't leave them somewhere. My other copper box contains a lot of fittings. There's my 3/8 couplings, 1/2 inch coupling, 5/8, a couple access fittings, a couple more, 5/8 elbows, 1/2 inch elbows. I don't keep a lot of those because they don't come up very often. Access fittings, a few brass caps, valve stems, some more brass caps, and my little smaller cutters there. And if I slide it back, let me slide this back. If I slide it back, I have my larger fittings: 7/8 elbows, couplings, 3/4 elbows, couplings, and then some street couplings, or street elbows, which just basically means, you know, slip on one side and the other side slips inside. And then here's my very old-fashioned swages. And yes, I still use it this way. These are my drain fittings. There's P-traps. Pretty much any drain fitting, I try to keep like 5 or 6 of in here. 45s, elbows, male adapters, female adapters, barbs. Got glue, got primer, got the cutters. And I always like to keep a little bit of PVC. You see the 2 pieces there on the van. A little standing S-lock too. Always comes in handy. Behind that you see a few tubes of coil, or a few gallons of coil cleaner. On the very end there's a deodorizer. I did that train unit a few months ago, which the house was stinking up, and Fritz had recommended getting the deodorizer, and that's I think I got that one at Johnstone, so it worked out pretty good. There's my install tray. It's got all my snips, hand seamers, hammer, screwdrivers, things like that. Anything I'd use on install. Just a general tool tray. My main tray here as far as tools is this one. This is my service tray. The ones I usually carry up to the house with me when I'm going to a service call initially. And it has several things inside of it. Gallo gun. Got a few Romex connectors in there. Our magnetic part dish. Let's see. Got a few slide rules in there, old-fashioned superheat and subcooling charts. A couple wire brushes in there for cleaning stuff off too. Come on this end, there's another K-clamp. If I just don't want to bring my whole gauge set up, I can just put my meter in this K-clamp on a line, get the temperature. A couple nut drivers from Klein, 1/4 inch and 5/16 on the end. Another end set of screwdrivers. Up here, more alligator clips and things like that. Pretty standard fare when you see the guys take their service tools out. It's a lot of the same stuff. A level, got a few pins in there, a few smaller thermostat screwdrivers. Service tool. It's my meter, trusty field piece SC76. I've had it for, I don't know how long, it's been a while now. Probably like 7-8 years. Since I use the amp clamp so much, I obviously leave this hooked up because it has the maximum and minimum, which this one does not. Field piece infrared gun style thermometer. Yeah, it's 182. Guess we're on Venus. 47.5 out here today. some cable ties with little eyelets in there so you can mount them to existing holes in the unit. This is the Supco Mega Ohm meter you see in the videos that I've done. Very good tool. I went to a call a few months ago that showed that the compressor was going to be going to ground relatively soon, and a few months later it sure did, and we just slapped an American Standard package unit in there. These are my little service gauges, and I put a little coupling in between them, just keep them right in there like this, so I can make quick readings without having to drag the big boys out. Here's a little connector hose. Other things, of course, I have wire strippers. I have the Stay-Con tool, crimping tool. I have some long needle nose pliers for reaching into the unit and putting Stay-Cons on, things like that. I have a pair of needle nose pliers, always come in handy. Various screwdrivers. You have your multi-tool, which the end fell off of in there. Cable ties I just bought, got a big bag of them right there. Magnetic nut driver that detaches, you can put other tips on it. A non-contact voltmeter or voltage detector. Adjustable wrench. And somewhere around here I have that filled piece wet bulb thermometer that's not in here right now. In here I have all my Stay-Cons and things like that I use in common situations, along with some fuses and things like that, butt connectors, and my little fusible, resettable fusible link. There's my vacuum pump. It's a JB Platinum 7 CFM. A very good pump. Very impressed with it so far. Has 2 3/8 connections and a 1/4 inch. There's my vacuum hoses. There's 2 1/2 inch and 2 3/8 hoses I use. Generally stick to the 3/8 hoses now unless the system's large or there's a long line set or something like that. 2 nitrogens there, 2 of every gas, oxygen, acetylene. Of course, the other ones are on my torch right here, which I use oxygen and acetylene all the time. Got some copper over there, spare copper, different sizes. Got my water hose back there. Haven't used it much. There's the old Testos 550. I use those for R410A. And here is the S-Man. I use those for all R22, which means that you get used the most since I do a lot of service, and right now service is mostly R22. Let's see. That right there is my ratcheting two-bit bender yellow jacket. A great tool. My TIFF scale. I've had that for a long time. In fact, it's coming apart in a few different areas. And I can tell you a little bit about my specialty tools. This is the SOX3. And it'll give you readings, efficiency readings, such as how much oxygen, carbon dioxides in the flue gas, gives you temperature and stack temperature and stuff like that. Lets you know how much excess air is there. So I'm able to troubleshoot if it's burning effectively and if the combustion blowers are working and things like that. And it's a real nice tool for me. It's not as fancy as some of the other ones, but it's definitely a real cool tool to have in like a service situation if you're diagnosing something that's just not burning correctly and you're on site. This is the Zebrastat. Has a few functions. You can test low voltage circuits with it to make sure they have their integrity is correct. You can also test it. It'll trip off when you have shorts and things like that, so it's a way to test without blowing fuses. And you can actually remote control equipment. Let's say you're on a rooftop unit and thermostat's of course downstairs. You don't want to have to walk downstairs to turn your units on and off, so you can use this and plug it up to the equipment and control it from this module, which is fantastic. I just love this thing. I like Zebra tools in general, but this is a cool one, and I have one more. This is the Universal Zebra. You can test ECM motors, different kinds, depending on what tip you have. Let's say here I have a Gentech 3.0. Actually bought this in error. I didn't really need that one. This one is the one you would use with the X13 motor. You would basically, this is your, plugs into your 5-point harness, and you would use this machine to turn on the different speeds to make sure all the speeds are performing. Like the one motor I had one time, that one of the speeds wasn't working. It wasn't programmed in the motor or for whatever reason. it's a good way to find that sort of fault. This is the GE 2.3 harness. A lot of variable speed motors like this. It's really cool for doing this one. You can plug it up and test all the speeds and go from heat 1, heat 2, cool 1, cool 2, and fan only. Make sure everything is how it's supposed to be. Really cool tool. I liked it. Back when I wanted to learn more about variable speed motors and how they worked, it seemed like a great tool for diagnosing problems. This is my field piece dual port manometer. Use this for gas pressure or static pressure. I did some static pressure readings the other day. There's my static pressure probes right there. And there's the piping that came with it. Mine's not quite as organized as Fritz's, but I'm working on that. He gave me some good ideas. I gotta pick up a few more fittings for mine anyway. This is the DAFM3 anemometer. I'm gonna do a video on this. I had a request to do a video on taking airflow with this, and I will do that. But this is basically all it is. You're trying to get CFM measurements when you're troubleshooting a system is what I use it for. You've seen in I did a tugboat video. We repaired a tugboat and we used this tool to ascertain that it wasn't getting enough airflow. And I use this on preventive maintenance when I'm doing the EER and HPF calculation. This is the STA2. It's a hot wire anemometer. I got this one to take CFM readings in the duct. So if that's the best way to do it, depending on that or the DAFM3, I think it was. One of those two ways is how I get my CFM readings. And this will it'll also give you temperature readings and things like that. But this is made by Field Beast, obviously. Everything that's left is just little things. Of course, there's my blower up there. I have a few vacuum supplies, my nylogger and my vacuum bag. That's my jigsaw and hammer drill. It's an SDS hammer drill. What are you doing? My producer.